today we're going to be talking about Week 6. So let's jump into it. But first, let's talk about Thursday night's game against Arizona and New Orleans. Honestly, that game, it was D-Hop's return game, and he balled out like crazy on that game.
They definitely made sure that he balled out, throwing him 14 targets. But, I mean, he did the most he could with it, making 10 of those catches for 103 yards.
Most definitely. After coming back from a 6-game suspension, having that long off, and then you can still ball out like that,
he definitely came back and showed he still had it, putting up 19.3 fantasy points on his first outing. So,
let's talk about their running game. I personally feel like they need to get rid of Connor, trade him away for some picks, and also get rid of Williams. I mean, you probably won't get much out of both of them, but I feel that Ingram and Benjamin definitely has that backfield taken care of.
They look great in the game. I mean, Benjamin and Keontae Ingram both 12 carries for Benjamin, 9 for Ingram, and Benjamin put up 92 yards with just those 12 carries, and he got him a touchdown, a 2-point conversion.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He caught 4 of the 5 targets.
Most definitely.
But honestly, I think if they hold him for a little bit longer, they let Connor kind of sit back in a running back committee stance to where he can keep healthy. And then they let him blast back in a couple games, they might actually be able to get some trade value for him if they do it that way first.
Most definitely. And let's just, congratulate the Cardinals on that dub because, it's Red Sea Nation. But now let's just talk about the Saints. Saints clearly need a quarterback. Andy Dalton looked good, a little bit here and there. And then, I can't remember, but, second half maybe, he started throwing those interceptions.
I mean, 2 pick sixes.
Yeah.
Just right next to each other in the game like that. And I don't get, obviously I'm an Andy Dalton hater.
Clearly, yeah. All the Saints Nation fans could probably agree with you on that. So, I mean, what do? You got Jameis Winston who throws interceptions. You got Andy Dalton who throws interceptions. Just throw Taysom Hill in there and hey, you're all we got right now.
I mean, at this point in the season, you're already, you're on week 7. It's getting close to that trade deadline, so you're gonna have to make something shake quick with some draft picks or something, some kind of capital from your team. But I would definitely be looking for a quarterback either this year, or if they're not looking to trade, you're going to be looking to pick one up next year for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be my next thing. Is do you guys go ahead and trade for a quarterback now? Hopefully to, get you somewhere. Or do you guys just tank and try to pick somebody up in the draft?
I don't know if I'd say almost tank, but Because how many people are really going to be looking for quarterbacks this year? I mean, you do got a few select teams, but those teams really aren't looking too terrible right now neither.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say you try to play it as well as you can. If Michael Thomas somehow manages to stay healthy, send him off for some draft picks or a good one or a good quarterback or something like that, and that would help.
Yeah, because, there's no way they're giving up Kamara. So... if you want a decent quarterback, you're going to have to, trade high.
And Michael Thomas, if you ask me, at this point in his career, he's washed up. But a lot of teams will take those washed up receivers and still use them.
Just to have that veteran, advice for some of the younger
AJ Green.
Wide receivers. Yeah.
He left the Bengals, and he's not looking like he did at the Bengals, but he's still a good, consistent wide receiver. And he's not getting as many targets, which is how he's staying healthy. That's what Michael Thomas needs.
Yeah. Jarvis Landry, he was great when he came in. Fell off just like, I don't know what it is, but he fell off just like Odell is. But he would be somebody great to have for advice and on a team.
Yeah, that's true. But I almost feel like it's not even fair to blame the wide receivers except for Michael Thomas. He gets a little injury and he's done. He's not playing. He's got his money in the league.
Correct.
He don't care. But
with
the other guys, it's kind of... he probably does, but it also seems as if, it don't take much for him to tell the coach
he is definitely injury prone.
No more.
He is definitely injury prone.
Chris Olave You put a good quarterback behind him and Marquez Callaway and Taysom Hill under the tight end position.
Well,
I think you got a solid team, but the quarterback is the issue there.
Well, let's not forget that Marquez Callaway was one of those interceptions.
He was.
It was his fault. Ball was there. Should have caught it. It was in the chest. But instead of that game, let's get into some other games. Buffalo versus Kansas City. Juju's finally getting comfortable with this offense. He's starting to show out a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he really didn't even have a lot of opportunities in that game as far as starter-wise goes, but he still showed out with what he was able to get in that game. And we actually have him coming up in that balled out segment later.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually kind of close game though, 24-20 with the Buffalo win. It was a weird game if you ask me for the quarterbacks, for both of them being superstars.
From what I seen, it was kind of low scoring, so it wasn't as offensive people probably have thought. It was more like defense coming through for him.
Not only that, but Allen, he came away with a fumble in that game. That's not too normal for him. And Mahomes with 2 interceptions.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not even that, but speaking about Allen proved that he got some hops hurdling over the defender in that game.
Yeah, no kidding.
Next thing I got to get on that game is Gabe Davis. He's honestly a great pickup now.
He definitely is in those deeper leagues where he might be available.
Yeah, it's giving me Miami vibes. Waddle and Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill for Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis.
Yes. Where if one is guarded, one is definitely going to be open.
But I mean, the last game they both had really good games, and they both got in the touchdowns.
That's what I'm saying. It's like so. Yes, you do have your wide receiver 1 and 2 with Diggs and Gabe Davis, but it's like like I said, if one's guarded, one's going to be open. So it's like you're really both a wide receiver 1.
Yep.
So you're both going to put up good points.
I definitely agree with that.
Let's hop into our next game. I got Indiana versus Jacksonville. Deion Jackson, man. I feel like the Colts' running game is protected very well.
Yeah, you tell me. Because I picked him up on a waiver wire decision to save me from losing last week in fantasy, and he came out and did just that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. So, Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines are returning, so of course Jackson's going to go back to that third running spot. But I mean, if any of them go out again, they're fine. Honestly, I feel like you don't have nothing to worry about.
I definitely agree that the running backs we got, they're pretty most solid definitely. And come through when we need them to after what we've seen from them.
With that game though, I did see that Colts' defense still needs to work. Their chemistry is just not there. It seems like communication is just not on key.
It does definitely still need something that we're missing, and it seems almost as if we might be on the upbrink of changing that over. We'll see with that today with the Indiana versus Tennessee game, hopefully. But I mean, we still came away with the much needed division win.
Right. Yeah, when you said that it seems like something's still missing, do you still think that missing is Shaq Leonard?
I mean, it might be. It potentially is.
It seems like he's the hype man for the team. A lot. So, not having your hype man with you, it kind of, tones your excitement down or something like that.
Yeah, they might be on a little bit of a lower morale ride right now, just with their captain out.
So during that game too, James Robinson wasn't getting the ball as much. Travis Etienne was getting a lot more touches. Do you see Travis Etienne getting all touches in the future?
I definitely don't see him getting all touches just because it is James Robinson. We know what he can do with the ball when he's having a good day. And at the end of the day, it is Jacksonville. I think Etienne can definitely see an increase in carries throughout this season, especially if he keeps overperforming with James Robinson. But
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think it's going to be more of a 60-40, 70-30 split, depending on how they're performing, really, in each game. If they see James Robinson's overperforming Etienne, then they might let him go with it. If they see Etienne's got the lead in that game, they're going to let him run with it, you know?
Yeah. Let's hop into the last game recap that I have is the Giants versus Baltimore. First thing I got about that game is Justin Tucker missed a 56-yard field goal.
That he did, which, you think, 56, wow, that's long, but at the same time, it's Justin Tucker.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that's what you get for being cocky on kicking the one kick against Cincinnati.
And no kick.
Yeah, so
he
had it coming, but then again, I mean, kickers miss. It happens. So, for him to miss this, I mean, yeah, people were probably like, wow, really? But then you got to realize, man, he's just as human as any other kicker.
Yep.
Is he more accurate? Yes. But, things happen. So, Tucker, I mean, you're going to get a lot of crap, but people's got to realize, you're still human. It's not like you got a bionic leg where it's automatic.
At the end of the day, who's better in the league?
True, but...
Eric McPherson's up there, but I don't think I'd even put him above Justin Tucker right now. But, New York Giants came away with a win, 24-20. And now they're 5-1. What's going on, Dave?
And just to correct you, since you're a Bengals fan, it's Evan McPherson, not Eric. So
hear me out. I'm tired.
It's all good. Wan'Dale Robinson had a great game back. He hasn't played since week 1. He was seeing targets from Daniel Jones. So, hopefully, his next game, we'll see the same thing. Hopefully, he's on the uprise.
I think that he potentially could be, and as long as Daniel Jones continues to look his way and sees those good opportunities, they're going to have some good games with Saquon looking back to better than rookie form. He's being more consistent than he is this year than he was his first few. Staying healthy and everything. He's popping up on the questionable list every once in a while, but it seems like he's doing pretty good.
And yes, it is, I believe, his shoulder, right? On the questionable.
It was his shoulder.
So they're just watching his shoulder. It seems like, the way he's taking hits, seems like his shoulder's fine, but, I understand to keep on the lookout for it. Another thing that I'm going to add is Daniel Bellinger, the rookie tight end. He's starting to do really well for the Giants.
He definitely is. He went 5 for 5 in the last game and put up 38 yards. Got a touchdown in there.
But yeah, with their wide receiver issue going on right now, it's good to have Wan'Dale Robinson back. Darius Slayton was in there, but they're just not having their stars in there. Is the issue. So having Bellinger doing as well as he does, Bellinger can go to the top eventually. If he keeps playing the way he is.
He definitely can end up being almost Kelsey-like tight end for New York if they play him that way, and he continues to come and catch the balls in the time that he needs to. Speaking of wide receiver issues and stuff, though, Baltimore in that game, Duvernay, 1 for 5 on the receptions, and he got 14 yards with the one that he could catch, but, did he even bring his hands or what?
Yeah, maybe that's why they're adding some more depth to their team, signing Deshaun Jackson. So
it could be a good add for sure, since Mark Andrews seems like he's having to carry the team almost.
And that's what I was about to get into. It's Andrews. Yeah, he plays tight end, but he's number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
So, but speaking about Baltimore, more on that. Kenyon Drake, he's starting to look really good. Coming from Miami to Arizona, and then playing behind Josh Jacobs at the Raiders. He wasn't doing so well with those teams. Well, Miami, he was doing good. And then Arizona, he started off kind of good, not real well. Raiders, he played behind Jacobs, so he wasn't getting as many carries. But playing for Baltimore, he's getting a lot of carries and seeing the end zone a lot. A lot of yards, too.
He definitely seems to be doing a lot better and prevailing in Baltimore with the talk of Kenyon Drake. I guess we can talk about the injuries, too, since he's probably going to be that. He is the starting back for this week's game, and last week he put up only 10 carries but got 119 yards and a touchdown. So, I mean, what do you think he's going to do this week with...
Well, that's the thing is, what do you feel like... I feel like they won't have a running back committee with Drake. I feel like it won't be the running back committee that people are thinking with having Gus Edwards back and Justice Hill. I feel like they might use them as like 2-minute warnings, or 2-minute drills and end zones.
I see you almost saying Kenyon Drake is going to be
carry,
that main guy.
Yes. I think Kenyon's going to carry the ball a lot more than they will.
So Kenyon Drake will have more rushing yards than Lamar Jackson in this game.
I'm not saying more rushing yards, but I'm going to say like he's going to see the ball more than most of these other running backs.
So he will have more rushing attempts than Lamar Jackson in this game.
We'll have to see what happens because I mean they do play Cleveland, so
that's true. Lamar Jackson likes running.
I'm not too sure. I haven't really been paying attention to Cleveland that much, but I'm not too sure how their defense is after adding that linebacker from Atlanta. So I guess we'll see what happens today. So let's get into some player news though. Trades. Robbie Anderson was traded to the Cardinals for a 2024 6th-round draft pick and a 2025 7th-round draft pick. I ain't gonna lie, to me it sounds like Carolina just wanted to get rid of him after the confrontation with him and the coach.
Yeah, I think Carolina was kind of over Robbie Anderson, his how he was portraying himself, at least in Carolina or on that team specifically. But
right.
If you ask me, that trade was really more just so for depth, if anything. I think that he'll probably come in and he might play this game and get a few targets, but I don't think you're going to see his usage spike up really too much. He might be a boom or bust in the future, but we'll have to see.
Yeah. Speaking about boom or bust, I'm going to take a minute to pause here and tell everybody that we have been discussing about a new segment coming up called Trust or Bust. So hopefully next week we can start that, guys, and hopefully we'll get it all set up and ready to go. But back to trades. Christian McCaffrey. Wow. 49ers gave up everything for this guy.
Yeah, they really reached for an injury-prone running back, if you ask me. And I honestly think that Carolina probably is going to end up the winner of that trade by the end of the season, as much as he's having issues.
I mean, talk about rebuild, though, on the picks they got.
Yeah, I mean, which is great for Carolina because they obviously need it.
Right. I mean, so Christian McCaffrey went to the 49ers. 49ers gave up a 2nd, a 3rd, and a 4th round draft pick for 2023.
Yeah. And then they added that 5th for 2024.
Right. And
just to sweeten the deal.
I mean, no offense, Christian McCaffrey, he's a great running back. When healthy, though. As of right now, yes, he's been healthy through most of the weeks. But he's still injury prone.
See, what my issue with this is that you got guys like Tom Brady drafted in the 7th round. And the 49ers traded a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and a 5th for Christian McCaffrey. As much as he pops up on their injury list, I don't see how it'll be worth it in the end.
Right. And then, I mean, you still got Jeff Wilson. You got Elijah Mitchell, who's soon to return. So what does that mean for those two running backs, though?
You know, I feel like with McCaffrey there, it's almost no question that as long as he can stay healthy, that they'll be taking a seat on the back burner. But they also might kind of turn into a legit running back committee, almost like New England, that we would see, you know, a few years ago, at least. Not really so much this season with Ramondre Stevenson there, but he's been showing out for him. I think that, you know, McCaffrey could almost be used as a backup, and you got him running behind the other two for a little bit to see how well he's going to stay healthy until they slowly increase his workload, which might end up being beneficial for the team.
Let's get into some injuries, though. Carson Wentz, finger injury, could miss 4 to 6 weeks. Hollywood Brown, foot injury. They're saying he's going to be out for a month. Joshua Palmer, he's ruled out for Sunday's game due to his concussion. J.K. Dobbins, feel bad for the man last year didn't play due to an ACL tear. Now he's going to have knee surgery done. He's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks, and now Russell Wilson is out due to a hamstring injury. But speaking about the Russell Wilson one.
And about the Russell Wilson, yeah, no kidding. Their backup, Brett Rypien.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess we'll see how this does for Denver. I mean, clearly they haven't been doing good with Wilson, so I guess we'll see how this guy does.
The last full game he played was against the Jets in 2020.
Oh, man.
They faced the Jets this week. And he threw 3 interceptions in that game.
After that, let's get into some of the surprises that I've seen throughout the NFL. Sean McVay looking into trading Cam Akers. That's crazy.
I mean, yeah, but he's been injury prone as of lately too, and I got him on my team. I hope he does go somewhere and stays healthy and actually does good for me, because I'm having running back issues in one of my leagues right now. Let me tell you.
Yeah. I was just thinking like they'd keep him though, but I mean, he hasn't been doing very well for the Rams, so maybe it's just time for him to move on and them to move on from him.
Yeah, I mean, I think they might be able to actually get a couple good things out of a trade for him too, at least if he goes to a team that's actually needing depth at running back.
Another thing is Jets wide receiver Elijah Moore is asking for a trade. He's frustrated with his role and usage on the team.
He is, and I heard that they wasn't going to trade him at all. Mm-hmm. They said they wasn't even interested in it. I think that they're just working him slowly into the offense, and if he just continues to stay there and prove himself with the targets that they give him, he'll actually have a good role there with New York.
Yeah. So let's see what happens future-wise. To me, he still might want out of there. I don't know. But same thing with like DJ Moore too. Carolina's like not trading him at all. They're saying like he's foundation of the team. So I mean, even if he asks for a trade, they're gonna franchise tag him most likely. Another thing is DeAndre Swift is not playing on Sunday.
Yep, he's out again.
Yeah, and I'm sure every owner of DeAndre Swift on fantasy is probably a little upset about that, because they were saying like, oh, he'll be back after bye week. Well, they didn't specifically say when, but I mean, people were probably like, oh, first game back, okay.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people was probably also thinking, since he had that bye week, it was a good little rest period for him, and he would be able to bounce back, but that's just not the case with Week 7, so we'll just have to see about Week 8.
Right. Let's jump into people returning back for their games coming up. Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines are both cleared to play. Like we said about Deion Jackson, it's, bad for him to go back because he was having a stellar game for the Colts. But having Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines back really helps out the Colts as well, because you got your receiving back and then your powerhouse back.
It definitely does. I mean, there's no way in my mind that it makes sense to actually keep starting Deion Jackson with Hines and Taylor being healthy. Right. You obviously push him back down and just let them take it away. However,
do what they're used to.
Deion Jackson did look good in the receiving back game, so I mean, keep him there for receiving back depth. And if Hines isn't looking too hot during the game,
right,
light a fire under Hines' butt and get some competition going between them. Make them outperform each other.
Right. Kenny Pickett cleared from concussion.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad to see that back. I mean, he's on one of my teams. I got that Pickett to Pickens connection, and I'm actually kind of hoping that they get that win against Miami this week. I'd like to see that upset.
Well, speaking about Miami, too, it is potentially able to return to face the Steelers. So, I mean, might be a good game. We'll have to see. I'm going to say it might be a high-scoring game.
I can definitely see it go that way, or I could see it going the total opposite way, where it is a defensive massacre on both ends of the ball.
It could, but it's just a matter of, I mean, it's just a matter of how the defense will play. So, I mean, both defenses aren't really that great, but, both defenses do have potential to make plays.
That is very fair. We're going to have to see how that one goes. I think it is going to be a good one, though.
Mm-hmm. Let's get into game predictions now. We have Indiana versus Tennessee. Speaking of, Indiana did beat Jacksonville last week. How do you think they'll do against Tennessee?
Obviously I said that win against Jacksonville was a much needed win. This one against Tennessee is also almost a much needed back-to-back win because we're facing division rivals again.
Mm-hmm.
So we lose this, it's more than just an actual loss.
Yeah, it will probably, because say if Jacksonville wins their game, we're back down to third. Where if we win this game, we're going to be up at first. Yep. So after the Jacksonville game, I feel like that fired Indiana up. And, I think they are still that second half team. That's when they come out and they do their thing a lot much better.
I definitely agree with that. I don't understand why, but
I think the tempo just changes.
They get a little more pressured.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna take Indiana on this one.
I do definitely want to take Indiana. I want to see Derrick Henry put up a good running game, but
fantasy-wise, yes,
I
understand.
At the end of the day, I do want to see the Colts take away the win.
Next game we got is Cleveland versus Baltimore. That one, Cleveland's good. They are. But I'm probably going to take Baltimore over this one after adding Deshaun Jackson. Yes, it's Deshaun Jackson. He's a lot older, but he's still a threat, I feel like.
Yeah, I think...
And then after seeing how Kenyon Drake performed going against Browns defense, I feel like Baltimore will probably take this win.
I believe that the Browns have a lot of holes that they still need to fill.
Mm-hmm.
One of those being that missing quarterback position where they are sticking with Brissett right now under center. He's not terrible, but he's also...
Week 11's coming up, and they did say that Deshaun Watson has been following all his orders, so it's looking good. That's going to be better.
I unfortunately I think Baltimore's coming away with that win in that one. I don't see a situation where Cleveland really wins unless somehow Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb get their little two-punch combo going.
And Baltimore's defense is good. It's just not the best. They could do better.
Yep.
But next game I got is Tampa Bay versus Carolina. Tampa Bay has been falling off the charts here lately, but it is against Carolina, who still don't know what their plans are.
Tom Brady's been having to sign a lot of papers on his off time.
Yeah.
His hand's starting to cramp up during the games and stuff. It's really bad for him. He's almost out of there, if you ask me.
I'm going to take Tampa on this game, though. Julio Jones is out again. But they still got Mike Evans, Russell Gage, and Chris Godwin. So hopefully with having them three, it's going to do something.
I agree. We're talking about Carolina being on a total rebuild right now. I just heard that not too long ago Chuba Hubbard took that starting position for Carolina. That makes me happy because I picked him up off the waiver wire after seeing the McCaffrey trade. But
right.
I just don't see where Carolina really comes away with the win against the loaded Tampa Bay offense that looks so good just as who they have and what those players could do when they're actually clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah. I'd say good thing for Stephon Gilmore that he got out of there and came to Indy.
Yeah.
So, if not, I'm sure that he'd be the next one requesting a trade.
That is very fair.
All right, so let's get into our next segment. Balled out. What you got for that?
For our quarterback, I got my boy, Joey B.
Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty.
That's right. He was 28 for 37 on his completions, 300 yards, and he got 3 touchdowns.
Now, who were those 3 touchdowns to? Were they to each guy, or
They were not. I do know that Jamar Chase, my guy, had a great game too. He had 2 touchdowns by the end of
now
it.
was it that game that he wore Jamar Chase's college championship jersey to?
It was that game.
Now imagine that. I wonder what.
It was that game. And he showed out. And, on top of the 28 passes for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, he got 4 rushes for 25 yards, and he got himself a little rushing touchdown in there.
No, that's good. What you got for running back?
So the next dude getting rushing touchdowns and balled out this week is Deion Jackson. There's no way that we could leave him off the list.
No, most definitely. Especially after like the workload he had to take on.
You think about how many points he put up, which was over 20 points.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think he's a third string running back.
Most definitely.
Who just came out and just did his thing. 12 attempts, which isn't very many. He had 42 yards with there, but he's still got his rushing touchdown in there. And they mainly used him almost like a Nyheim Hines, because he had 10 targets, and he caught all 10 of those for 79 yards.
Yeah, that's what I was going to jump into. It's crazy because it's like Deion Jackson is Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines put in one guy because he is a powerhouse running back. Like you've seen during the Jacksonville game, he was running through. Well, not through people, but he was carrying people with him.
He definitely was showing that he didn't care, and he was lowering that shoulder and running through.
And then you did see that he was taking on the catches, and he was making plays with his receptions.
The thing about guys like that, though, is they end up getting overused, and then their bodies get torn down. They're getting tackled too much. They're getting hit. Now they're getting injured.
Well,
and
here's
their
another
body's
thing.
made of glass.
Well, here's the other thing is, like, how they're trying to use Nyheim Hines as a receiver.
Yep.
So maybe in the future they're going to put Nyheim Hines out there and start using Jonathan Taylor and Deion Jackson as 1-2 punch.
I think that's very possible. However, I think it might be more likely we see Deion Jackson out there as a big-bodied receiver instead of Nyheim Hines, as well as he's showing he's catching his targets that are coming to him.
Yeah. Let's jump into balled out tight end.
Yep. Next up for the tight end, we got Mike Gesicki. He hasn't been doing the best.
No, he has not.
This season.
I've seen a lot of guys in fantasy leagues dropping him.
Yep. They definitely haven't been pleased by his performance. But this week he caught 6 of his 7 targets. He got 69 yards out of those, and he put up 2 touchdowns with those 6.
Now, was that with
catches.
Bridgewater or?
I believe that was with...
Because Bridgewater came back, I believe. So let's get into... Who do you got for wide receiver?
The wide receiver that bought out this week, finally, Juju Smith-Schuster for the Chiefs.
As we said in the beginning, that he's finally finding his spot on the offense. Getting comfortable, and, Patrick Mahomes is getting comfortable with him. Because, this is kind of a whole new thing for Patrick Mahomes, not having Tyreek Hill. And, he still has Kelsey, yes, but Tyreek Hill was his go-to guy.
It definitely is. Hill was that guy he could always look to, and he was open.
Mm-hmm.
He was open somewhere. That was just his thing. But
Patrick could literally just throw it down the field and be like, well, here you go. And somehow he gets over there and gets it.
And it seems like he's still working around it without Hill, and he's still making this Chief offense run as well as it was before. Juju Smith-Schuster coming in.
I think what it is like they're now getting their chemistry. Like, Patrick's realizing, okay, they're just not as fast as Hill, but their route running is good. So he's got to see that when they run their routes, that he can't just throw it. He has to wait until they are open.
I think he definitely does have to be more calculated because it's not just a down the field chase no more. It's an actual calculated throw inside 10, 15, 20 yards with coverage a lot of the times.
Next segment and last, but crapped out. Carson Wentz. He put up only 4.16. Granted, he is injured, but he did play the whole game. Against the Bears. He only completed 12 of his 22 throws and only just got under 100 yards. He got 99 yards. Wentz, he's honestly up and down. He is going to be out for a few weeks. So maybe when he's starting to get a lot more healthier, something could just work out for them. I mean, Washington, I feel like their offense is good. You got Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson. I mean, I don't know if he's still injured or not. And then Brian Robinson came back, so you got that Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson. And so it's just like, I feel like Washington could make something of themselves if Wentz can actually, do something.
They definitely have potential when their quarterbacks show up and actually play to be quarterbacks. I mean, you never want to see your quarterback go into a game and throw 22 throws and only complete 12 of them, let alone throw for under 100 yards.
Yeah, most definitely. Running back, we got Raheem Mostert, Miami's running back. He actually took over Chase Edmonds' spot. He's now number 1. But, I mean, he just put up the same points as Edmonds did, just over 5 points, just a little over. He got 5.80, carried the ball 14 times for 49 yards, and he was targeted twice, missed 1, received 1, but only got that negative yard.
Right, and on a play like that, you kind of got to ask, was that just a bad read by the quarterback for dumping it to him, or could he have actually made something out of that when you're almost getting hit as soon as you catch that ball?
Right. Not too sure. I believe during the Steelers game, we'll see what happens, if he's going to keep that number 1 spot, or is Chase Edmonds going to, ball out during this game and maybe take it back.
I think it's kind of the same thing as Jacksonville, where it's going to be whoever's just overperforming is going to be their lead guy that week.
Most definitely. Tight end, we got Philadelphia, Dallas Goedert. He only got 4.20 fantasy points. He only received 2 of his 6 targets, and he only got 22 yards out of it.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe the other 4 that he didn't get could be defensive. It could have been the quarterback. But still, I mean, even if the ball was there, you got to make plays with it.
You definitely cannot be missing that many targets when you're trying to win a football game.
Yeah.
And if the quarterback's going to look to you that way consistently, you're going to have to get your hands there to catch those kind of balls. And it just seems like he didn't come with his hands on that game neither.
He just wasn't ready that one. This one kind of shocks me. It's wide receiver DK Metcalf. Fantasy points was only 5.40. He went 2 for 7 for 34 yards. Hopefully he don't do that this week, because I believe Tyler Lockett has a hamstring injury and is questionable to play this week.
All I gotta say is DK Metcalf better stop listening to Waka Flocka before the games. It is not working for him.
No, and DK, he has potential, so hopefully he will ball out for us next week, and we can put him on the ball out segment. So, but other than that, guys, that is all we have for you guys today. As you guys know, always remember to ball out on your fantasy leagues, and your boys are out.